in volume 2 of this, Webster's 1828 dictionary, okay? And once again, swart, to make tawny. Swarthy, duskly with a tawny hue. Swarthiness, tawniness, a dusky or dark complexion. Swarthy. Definition A, or 1, being of a dark hue or dusky complexion, tawny. In warm climates, the complexion of men is universally swarthy or black. Swarthy or so-called black. There is no black. Ain't nobody black. That's the crayon color. But either way, you know what they mean. The Moors, right? The Moors are swarthy. The Moors, Spaniards and Italians are more swarthy than the French, German, and English. That's what they say here in 1828. I guess they forgot what Benjamin Franklin said in 1750. You know, let's not use crayon colors to refer to people and generalize. You know, let's just try to learn and let them learn. Let these people who are ignorant, let them learn. They can argue and talk all day, but we got sources and we got history. We got genealogy, you know, primary stuff here. Okay? Definition number 2 of swarthy. All right? Pay attention, everybody out there. Pay attention. Active listening is very important with this kind of stuff. That's why you're here, right? Because you want to know things about history, correct stuff. We're not here just to philosophize and blog, right? I'm not here just to blog and give my opinions, right? Definition number 2, black. That's what swarthy means. Definition number 2, black. Definition number 2, black. As the swarthy African, just like an African, not just talking about tans. Yeah, you might apply swarthy. Dark, because it means dark. You can use dark in many ways, right? So we're talking about dark complexion. Yeah, you can use swarthy. Some people that might have a tan. But in general, we're talking about also so-called black people. The definition number 2 is swarthy. 1828 Webster's Dictionary means black. Swarthy means black. The swarthy African. Swarthiness, a tawny color. Swartish, somewhat dark or tawny. Swartish. Swarthy, tawny. All right. So-called black. We clear? We clear with that? Before we get into the primary sources that are describing these people with these words, don't forget, it means black, so-called black. You see it? I highlighted it. Do you see? Don't pretend you're blind. Don't practice cognitive dissonance. Listen. Let go. Empty your cup. Empty your cup. I'm trying to help you see something. This might help you grow as a human. Be more conscious of certain things, respectful of certain people, and get you off that ego trip, get you off that stereotype, that racism, that prejudices. Come on now. Swarthy means so-called black, especially in these colonial primary source writings. All right, so real quick, I'm going to start with this book because it's going to reference another book. So I just want you to see what they're talking about in the other book. This book is Ways of the World, Theater and Cosmopolitanism in the Restoration and Beyond by Laura Rosenthal. Okay? So we're going to follow the clues. It says here, in one of the sources on the back of the book, it says for number 13, for discussions of Catherine's, listen, Catherine of Braganza, who's who we're talking about, Catherine's swarthy skin, we're going to see H. Forneron's The Court of Charles II from 1649 to 1734, compiled from state papers. All right, we're going to go to this book right now, and we're going to see what they're talking about in that book about Catherine's swarthy skin color. All right. So again, here's the book that they told us to go reference. And again, that's The Court of Charles II, 1649 to 1734, compiled from state papers by H. Forneron. Okay? And this is from 1897. Just going to start here in this paragraph. It says here, Spain being an adversary of France, it was among her most bitter foes that Louis sought a wife for the restored monarch. He chose a Portuguese princess, and doing which she made a blunder. The Portuguese then, like the Moors, listen, kept their women in ignorance and seclusion instead of a princess used to the intrigues and complexities of court life and able to domineer. A rakish husband, Charles II, listen, Charles II, right, was mated to a swarthy dwarf, a swarthy little woman, just like they described her earlier, right? They said she was very short, of short height, of 24, who, when she arrived in England, had never in her life spoken to a man, even during the voyage. Okay? Her sedentary habits had made her obese, and this defect was thrown into relief by her curious mode of dressing. She was a squat figure and a brown complexion. All right, it doesn't mean a tan swarthy. They're literally talking about somebody with a dark complexion, and nobody's really black, right? Most people that are so called black are brown complexion. Again, swarthy, right? The wife or the mate of Charles II. We're talking about Catherine Braganza, as it told us in the book we just came from, told us to reference this book when it comes to Catherine's swarthy skin. And now they're telling us here, yeah, she is of brown complexion. Her teeth were so badly set as to be a deformity. There really is nothing in her face to inspire positive disgust, said Charles mournfully. After the first interview, he was mightily pleased when the wedding ceremony was over that she was too tired after her voyage not to wish to be left entirely alone. The Portuguese ladies who came with her were not seductive and wore monstrous hoops which followed the waddling. All right, and it keeps going. But I guess you guys said it right. A swarthy dwarf who has a brown complexion. We're just talking about Catherine, okay? Catherine of Braganza, the Portuguese. So, real quick, I'm in the book, A Political and Social History of England by Frederick C. Dietz, PhD, Professor of History in the University of Illinois. Third edition. This is from 1948. So I go to page 313, as you guys can see. And we're going to start here where it's talking about the different partners or romances of Charles II. It says here, Lady Castlemaine had to share Charles with many another lady, from Nell Gwyn, Moll Davis, and Louis de Pirual, down, not to mention his swarthy, so-called black, ugly wife, Catherine of Braganza. Yet this amorous dilettante was actually the most astute politician of his age. All right? Again, Catherine of Braganza, one of his wives, was swarthy, dark complexion, swarthy, so-called black. We're in this book. It's called George Villiers, 2nd Duke of Buckingham, 1628 to 1687, a study in the history of the Restoration by Winifred Lady Burgclair, with portraits and illustrations. And this is from 1903. Now we go to page 86 of this book. And this one's pretty good because it also confirms what we already know about Charles II. We know he was very dark, so-called black too. And it even confirms it right here. It says, unluckily, this excellent Griselda had one failing. She was extremely plain. With her father's fidelity and unselfishness, she had also, unfortunately, inherited his dark complexion. Talking about his daughter. Talking about her dad, Charles II, had a dark complexion. And we already know this. This is another source letting us know something we already proved in a previous video. Now, regarding his wife, Catherine of Braganza's marked predilection for the poor duchess was said to be due not only to their community and conjugal misfortune, but to their remarkable resemblance. Okay? Remarkable resemblance to who? And we must remember that Charles' consort was not beautiful. Even Mr. Pepys' moderate panegyric of her good, modest, and innocent look, which is pleasing, seemed excessive to the majority of English people. The consensus of opinion being rather with Charles II, who on first beholding his bride exclaimed they had brought him a bat instead of a woman You guys hear what he said? He called his wife a bat. That's how he thought he wasn't very attractive. Not only was Mary Fairfax's skin like Catherine's, extremely swarthy, extremely like Catherine, extremely swarthy, extremely dark complexion, extremely so-called black. But she too was short-legged and awkward, a little round, crumpled woman, and yet so fond of finery that even when in mourning she would contrive to wear a loose overrobe, all edged and laced with gold. Pious and virtuous as she was, she shared readily in the harmless frolics of the Queen's circle. Again, Catherine of Braganza. We already knew Charles was a so-called black man, Charles II. They named all the taverns after him, right? The black boy, remember? We got the video already. We got way more sources too for him. But today we're seeing that his wife, Catherine of Braganza the Portuguese, was extremely swarthy. So swarthy, so-called black. I'm in this book now, The Great Governing Families of England by John Langton Sanford and Meredith Townsend in 2 volumes. This is volume 1, and this is from 1865. We go to page 224 of this book. Now, on this page, they're talking about somebody else, right? Lord Chesterfield, it says here. Page and Wonder, Beggar and Earl, who asked the hand of Cromwell, lived with Barbara Villiers. After a life of rude excitement, fell in love with his own wife, and with a ruined reputation was still one of the few men whom Catherine of Braganza, Charles II's swarthy Kate, so swarthy, so-called black Kate, Catherine dared ask to be her executor. All right, got another source telling you specifically and bringing it up that Catherine of Braganza was swarthy. Why didn't they say that about the other women? Why are they not describing all the other ones? She was literally so swarthy, okay? So-called black. Catherine of Braganza, okay? Charles II's wife. In this book right now, or encyclopedia, it's actually called Illustrated Encyclopedia or Paedia of World History by J.A. Hamerton. All right, and this is the cover right here. All right, so this book goes a little more in detail with her appearance. We're going to read the whole thing. It says, Charles' wife, Catherine of Braganza, was short, not bad looking, demure, and quiet. Pepys thought her not very charming, yet she has a good, modest, and innocent look, which is pleasing. Sir John Reresby speaks of her as a very little woman, with a tolerably pretty face, and Evelyn says of her that, though low of stature, prettily shaped, languishing, and excellent eyes, her teeth wrong in her mouth by sticking a little too far out, for the rest lovely enough. The last opinion coming from honest Evelyn lent some color to the brutal description of Lord Dartmouth, who after comparing her with a bat says, she was very short and broad and of a swarthy complexion, so swarthy, so-called black. One of her 4 teeth stood out, which held up her upper lip, and besides, she was very proud and ill-favored. Again, Catherine of Braganza, Charles II's wife. Swarthy complexion. I'm in this book now. It's called Ladies' Companion and Monthly Magazine. This is volume 15 from 1859. And you go to page 264 of this book, and I'm going to zoom into this part. And it says right here, Catherine of Braganza and her suite of swarthy ladies. So maybe not only her, but the people she was around were also swarthy. First introduced the use of the sun fan into England, those huge green shades that served the purpose of a parasol, and which were not wholly exploded from the promenade, till the latter part of George III's reign. Again, Catherine of Braganza and her suite of swarthy ladies. You guys see that? So swarthy. We're in this book. It's called Wonder Woman in History by Albert Payson Terhune. And this is from 1918. We go to page 68 of this book, all right? Talking about Charles and his wife again. And it says here the royal marriage was duly solemnized, and Catherine of Braganza became Queen of England. She was a dumpy little swarthy-faced creature, all right? Little swarthy-faced creature. So swarthy, so coal-black. This Portuguese girl, homely, gentle, and affectionate. From the very first, Charles grossly neglected her, and the dutiful court followed his example. The foreign queen was left lonely and miserable in her almost deserted suite of the palace, to amuse herself as best she could, while king and court reveled throughout the rest of the building. Okay, again, swarthy face, little, like the other book just said, dwarf, swarthy face, little. All right, so-called black. All right, we go to this book. All right, and this is the cover. I'm gonna go down. It's called Womanhood by Ada Ballin. All right, Ada S. Ballin. We go to page 307. I gotta zoom in a little bit here. It says her daughter-in-law Catherine of Braganza was never crowned, not, it is believed, from any religious scruples of her own, but rather from her careless husband's lack of enough money to spend upon such a function as the coronation of a wife whom he just tolerated. Unlike her predecessor, Catherine was by no means beautiful. Evelyn, and that's John Evelyn, says she was of an olivander complexion, that is to say, swarthy, dark, so-called black. He also says that her teeth wronged her mouth by sticking out. All right, so we got that a little bit earlier. All right, but olivander, olives are dark, they're brown, they're black, they're many colors, but in general, a lot of the Moors from Spain got literally described as olivander as well, olive colored. But they just mean swarthy, dark complexion. I'm in this book now. It's written by Susan Holloway Scott, author of Duchess, and this is called Royal Harlot, a novel of the Countess of Castlemaine and King Charles II. It was a monstrous attire on a plain, pinched, swarthy woman, so swarthy, yet even without a plaque or label, I knew who she was. The Portuguese Infanta Catherine of Braganza, soon to be Charles' bride, the swarthy woman, so-called black. I'm in this book. It's called Stars Over England. This is written by Mark L. Penfield, I believe that's the L or H, Mark H. or L. Penfield, okay? And we go to part 2 of this book where it talks about the British monarchs, and we skip over to where they're talking about Charles, right? And it confirms something we already know. I think I might have shown this in my Charles II video, not sure, but as it says here, Charles II was born in London, May 29th. According to Royal Charles by Antonia Fraser, and looks, Charles was an ugly baby, dark and swarthy like his mom. All right, so even Charles II's mom, which we probably will get to, all these people are dark, right? So-called black. Temperamentally, he was lazy and profligate, the complete opposite of his father. So again, Charles, dark and swarthy, dark and swarthy. Now let's go a little bit ahead. It says in May 1662, Charles married Catherine of Braganza, daughter of the King of Portugal. Born November 25th, 1638, she came with a huge dowry of 350,000 pounds, which included Tangier and Bombay. Despite being Catholic, she agreed to rear her children as Protestants, a moot point as the couple would have no children. Preferring to remain naive about her husband's numerous affairs, Catherine was always kind to his many bastard children. The fact that Charles had no legitimate children might be shown by the sun Jupiter square opposing Saturn, the planet of status. So this is like a zodiacal, book. It says Catherine was a tiny woman, which we got that already, right? Considerably shorter than her husband, who stood 6'2" inches tall. She was dark, okay? She was dark like Charles' mother, but rather plump in her later years. Always patient, self-controlled, and very obliging. Catherine was a pious and reserved woman whose personality contrasted sharply with that of her licentious mate. Again, she was dark, just like Charles's mom, another woman, another swarthy person, so-called black. Dark. Swarthy don't mean tan, she was dark complexion. Here you go. All right, we're gonna keep confirming what everybody was saying and all these books are saying about Catherine. This was this book is Catherine of Braganza, Infanta of Portugal and Queen Consort of England by Lilias Campbell Davidson with portraits and illustration, and this is from 1908, page 96. Bottom paragraph says he says before the king was married, he told old Colonel Legg that he thought they had brought him a bat instead of a woman, but it was too late to find fault, and he must make the best of a bad matter. She was very short and broad, of a swarthy complexion. One of her foreteeth stood out, which held up her upper lip, had some very nauseous distempers, besides excessively proud and ill-humored. Next page, page 97. Forneron and his Court of Charles. This is all the sources we got. A book valuable in its certain sort by its publication of the private correspondence of Louis XIV with his ambassadors to England, never before edited, improved on this text. He calls Catherine a swarthy dwarf of 24, who still she arrived in England, had never in her life spoken to a man, even during the voyage. And again, confirming down here, she was of a squat figure and a brown complexion, swarthy brown complexion. Just want you guys to see, everybody knew, everybody's writing the same thing.